Hey guys, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Free and Clear Real Estate Podcast. I have a special guest today. Couldn't think of a better person to kick off this podcast than Lorraine Simon with
Aw.
Keller Williams Realty Partners. It's a really amazing agent. She actually used to work for me back in the day before she spread her wings to go do bigger things. Great agent, even better person. Lorraine Simon, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you for that sweet introduction.
Awesome. You do the work. I just call it like I see it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Glad to have you. So first episode, we're going to be talking about first time home buyers.
Let's
I know
talk.
you have a affinity to first time home buyers. So let's kind of kick off into that.
Let's talk.
So tell me, biggest myth, mistake first time home buyers make during the home buying process?
The biggest myth, there's so many different myths that lie in the process of being a first time home buyer, but I would say only because you don't know what you don't know. So a first time home buyer really wouldn't know that the only cost that's associated to their purchase is the mortgage. And so in my experience, a lot of the times they go into the process thinking that there's just this one soft cost of what my monthly mortgage is going to be, not recognizing that it encompasses your property taxes, your insurance, your home maintenance, deferred maintenance. So all of the things that come into the responsibility of home ownership on the front end isn't necessarily evaluated once they get the pre-approval. But again, you don't know what you don't know. So it's a myth to think that I'm only going to be responsible for my mortgage and that's it.
Okay, so since they don't know what they don't know, that's actually a really good segue, and I don't even think you knew that. What is the process of buying a home for a first time home buyer, for any type of buyer in general?
Yeah. And you're right, any type of buyer, first time home buyer, investor buyers, downsizer, whomever is purchasing, I think it is imperative that they find a realtor that is seasoned, educated, and well rounded for their level. And I say their level because if you are an investor, you definitely need an agent that knows how to run numbers on the property. And if you're a first time home buyer, you need someone that's going to really be gentle to hold your hand through the process. So, in order for them to learn what they don't know, a buyer's consultation with that realtor is important out of the front gate because what does this process entails? What does it require of me? What are the costs long term after we close on the property? What is it that that buyer should expect? So a buyer's consultation with their realtor is going to set the foundation and then that buyer can build on that so they know what to look forward to down the line. Once they go on the contract, we're excited. But there's so much more that comes and cost that's associated in their purchase that if they don't have the consultation and they don't know, they go into it blindly and it can be a costly decision. And for some buyers, they really can become detoured from the process because I just didn't know and no one told me.
Um, okay, so tying in not knowing what you don't know, I know you have a really interesting story. You know, we've talked about this before about, you know, why you have a affinity for first time home buyers because of your experience when you bought your first property. You want to expound on that a little bit and kind of give the audience a little bit of idea how you went through it personally and how you overcame it.
So first time home buyers definitely hold a sweet spot in my heart because my exposure to purchasing my first home, oh, I'm not gonna say how many years ago, but a young 23-year-old. And so that experience for me walking through that process with my mom really is what opened my heart to the desire to become a realtor. This was never the plan. I have a master's degree in public administration. I was going to work and stay in government, matriculate my way into becoming a director, and then ultimately I had desire to go on the federal level to serve in the human services capacity. But I was exposed to the real estate world through my first purchase, and that really allowed me to sit and ponder how many other individuals would like to go into home ownership, but it feels like such a big mountain to climb and they just don't know. And for me walking through that process with my immigrant mom, I literally had to explain one step at a time, but my real explained it with the help of my realtor that I met through my network of Big Brothers Big Sister and Google. Like literally, I went to Google and I asked the Google what were the steps, and I ate the steps one step at a time.
Wish you had AI back then.
Listen, how quickly, because I had gotten a pre-approval in October of '08, but didn't close until February of '09 because of not knowing. But my realtor, Victoria, who's still in the industry now, she was excellent. So she held our hand, she explained it, she walked us through, and ultimately she got us a really good deal. No closing costs was paid out of pocket, and we were only responsible for our down payment.
Now, did Victoria do a buyer's consultation with you guys?
She did. And again, she and I already had a personal relationship through Big Brothers Big Sisters. So once I got my pre-approval, she called me into her office, and she was in Las Olas, right? So I'm walking in and I'm like, ooh, this is nice. And so, they were overlooking the intercoastal, and she was with EWM at the time. And so it was, ooh, this is luxury, right? And so that experience too, in and of itself, listen now. She had me in Las Olas, but I definitely was not approved on Las Olas budget. Okay, gonna hold you. It was $150,000, and at 23, I thought I was doing it. They said I could buy me a house. What's the next step? And so she brought me in, and she really gave me an idea of what that process would look like. Where my mom was coming in because she had the credit, and I needed her support. And so you got to lean on your folks. But she gave us the insight on what the process would look like, what to expect, and she ultimately got us to the end. And so the buyer's consultation is imperative, because if not for her insight and her knowledge, I would not have even known what to look for. Even in the home inspection, I can remember this. At the time, she had come in with one of her contractors and an inspector. So her contractor came in and was giving us insight on things that we should avoid and things that are okay and what we could fix and all of the things. Because keep in mind, 2009, February, this is the economic downturn.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It was so bad that there was a house that we had went and previewed. There was a car that was driven into the side of the house.
And just stuck there.
Because they were done with the lender. They were mad.
I remember those days.
Yeah, so.
Now, so you did the buyer's consultation. Were there any hidden costs that she didn't explain that kind of popped up?
I would say not knowing that we were going to be responsible for the appraisal up front. That's a cost. The home inspection is our responsibility as well up front. And then though we understood that there would be a closing cost that was associated with the purchase, how much is that? And what does it cover? So again, not knowing what you didn't know. And so we didn't know at the level of our first purchase what the closing costs entailed and what fees would be associated. But now once we did get there, she did have to remind us, don't worry, I've already gotten that fee covered, because the seller paid the complete cost of our closing costs.
Okay. So typically, how much do closing costs run a first-time home buyer?
So in our market right now, when I am hosting my buyer's consultation, I'm telling all of my buyers, we want to estimate that it's going to cost at least about 4% of the purchase price. But what is also great is having valuable vendors such as yourself, Elevated Title. So it's an easy pick up the phone and have a conversation with the title company, or even to be a proactive realtor. If I know a particular property that we're going to be purchasing, I can send that property over to one of our vendors. They can run an initial fee sheet so that the buyer will see what the estimated, and I say estimated because depending on your city, depending on the property, costs can vary. So what are the estimated costs that the buyer can expect at the closing table? But in our South Florida market, I would say about 4% of whatever that purchase price is.
So we got down payment is a cost. We have closing costs as a cost.
Right.
Now with the whole NAR settlement lawsuit that was about a year or so ago, now buyers are responsible for paying their agents, sellers are responsible for paying their own agents. How has that affected, first-time home buyers? How has that affected you with clients? Obviously, it's something you talk about in the buyer's consultation, but do you get pushback? Like, how has that affected, the buying market?
So what's interesting about this whole new landscape that we're in around the whole buyer brokerage agreement and the settlement with NAR, first let me say I am not your legal representative. I am not an attorney, though that was an aspiration of mine. Please seek any counsel that you may need to further understand this whole new NAR settlement. But to your question, when we were here, and I said we, our team, when we were here with the Pro Realty Group, the buyer brokerage was something that we did.
Correct.
Right? And even at one point, we were collecting a retainer that if and when they close, that money would transfer back over to our buyer, right? Mm-hmm. So the buyer brokerage agreement, though it's something that has exploded now,
it's nothing new for us.
It's nothing new for us, right? And so, but I have seen how this new dynamic has changed the way we do business. Our brokerage, Keller Williams Realty Partners Southwest, has done an extensive amount of training so that we know how to maneuver. Yet and still, not all agents are made the same. Correct. And so buyers, I believe, are affected more in this process of doing business than they actually know. Example, I have a listing now, and we had maybe had 9 showings on Saturday and received 3 offers by and this is last week Saturday. We received 3 offers by that Monday. Now the seller has been negotiating, going back and forth with one particular offer, and in this particular offer, advocating on the behalf of this first-time home buyer because they were coming in very strong on the asking price and meeting all of the other sellers' acts. They needed closing cost concession, right? Mm-hmm. The agent had asked for 5%. We were able to negotiate it down to 4%. So now the buyer's actually getting their full closing cost coverage. Yet the realtor is not wanting to move forward because she's not getting her entire 3% commission. And because this is a first-time home buyer who's responsible for the down payment, closing costs, home inspection, appraisal, all of the costs associated with their purchase, they don't have the 1% to pay her.
This type of agent is what kind of got us in this whole situation with NAR in the first place.
Correct.
Because you're supposed to do as an agent what's in the best interest of your client,
Correct.
Not the best interest of your pocket.
Because the seller has already agreed to pay that agent 2%, and now because she's not getting the 3%, she has voiced to me that her buyers are deciding to move on. And my response to her is, are you deciding to move on, or is the buyer deciding to move on? Because the offer that they presented has been accepted.
Correct.
On all terms, agreed on both sides. And so with this new NAR settlement, that comes into play because does the buyer fully understand that their agent has now potentially killed the deal because she's not able to be compensated at the level of her desire?
And I think they got rid of one problem with the settlement and created this problem. I've had that same situation where I had a listing and the agent said, listen, I don't work for less than 3%. So if they can't pay me 3%, this isn't the property for my buyer. And I was like, but if your buyer wants to see this property, they want to make an offer on the property, your commission has nothing to do with that. You're acting in your own personal interest, which is bad for buyers in general, but especially first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
It's when they're strapped for cash and, it's a big investment that they're making, and people are taking that away from them for selfish reasons.
Yeah. So you're right. One problem to now create another.
Okay. So now we have monthly down payment, closing costs, we have realtor costs. What are some of the monthly costs that first-time home buyers might not expect to pay or kind of get sticker shock when they see that first bill come in?
I think transitioning from the shocker, right, in being a first-time home buyer, and this was for me as well, transitioning from renter to owner. Mm-hmm. Where renting, it's more of a convenience. If anything in the property is in need of maintenance repair, I call the maintenance department or the landlord, whatever that particular rental setup is. But now as the owner, it's me by me.
You have to have your own maintenance department.
Hello. It's called, you are the owner equity club landlord, right? So I can remember when I purchased my first property and I was in love with this property because the owner had done such a beautiful job in totally renovating the property, and it had a red door. And so was the blood of Jesus. And so we moved in, fell in love with the property, and it had these beautiful floors. What I thought was wood floors. And again, at 23, I didn't know.
Right.
Child, that was probably vinyl. And it didn't have no water damage protection on it at all. And so a month and a half into owning the property, came home from work and my floors were swollen. I was like, what is happening right now? Just to find out that the water heater had gone out, right? Because the property had been vacant for several months. And then now here it is. Me and my family are moving in. There's more mechanics that's moving through the property, and the water heater was almost to the end of its life expectancy. And we probably just was working it too much, and it bust. There was no landlord to call. There was no maintenance department to call. It was on me as the owner. And so understanding that part of transitioning from renting to ownership makes a big difference, that you need a reserved dollar amount set to the side just in case. Because the truth of the matter is the home inspector is going to come in and he or she is going to do their best job. But now when you move into that property, you're stirring something up in the house that hasn't probably been moving, and
Right.
so there are things that the home inspector can't catch. But those big ticket items such as your roof and your electric and all of those things, yes. But the mechanics of the property, sometimes they just can't catch it. So I think that is something that a first time home buyer should anticipate. When I move in, are there going to be any maintenance that I have to prepare for, or even deferred maintenance that's coming down the line that they may forget about?
How much do you think that they should have saved up for an emergency fund, a maintenance fund? Like, what's a good amount in your opinion?
I would say 2 months of your mortgage amount.
Okay.
So having that set aside for a particular maintenance issue that may arise puts you in a good, comfortable cushion. And I think too, on the lender side, they're excited to see that that buyer actually
Has some
does
money.
have, yeah, they have some money saved up. And moving in as well, I would say this to first time home buyers. I know we all get excited and we want to decorate our property so we can have a big housewarming, but it's okay to take your time
Yes.
in decorating your property. It is absolutely okay. Get settled in, move in, feel home ownership, right? What does that first month bill now feel like? Because it's not rent anymore. This is a mortgage, tax, insurance, which is escrowed into one payment, but it's new.
HOA, bigger electric bills,
Right.
bigger water bills.
Well, potential water bills, because when you were renting, you probably weren't even paying for the water.
Yeah.
And now you own and you are.
How do you feel about home warranties, and does that offset the need to have a reserve fund? Is it in conjunction with a reserve fund? How do you feel about that?
There was a time where home warranties were part of the transaction, but more so too when I was in Alabama, when I had the opportunity to go work with that developer in Birmingham, that was always attached to the purchases. And so the home warranty doesn't negate maintenance costs. Now it helps as a first time home buyer if there is an appliance that's having an issue and you remember that the seller actually attached a warranty. So for you, that puts that maintenance department that's available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a home warranty supports a first time home buyer if the seller has the ability to add that into their listing. I think it's a great support for any buyer that's coming in, because they don't know whether or not the appliance has another year or 5 left in it. Although again, the home inspector might have put that in the inspection report, but the capacity of what that family is utilizing the appliance can differ from what was said on the home inspection. So if a seller or even a buyer can cover a home warranty to protect their appliances and lessen their costs for maintenance, I think that it's important to also include that into a first time home buyer cost that they may not even be thinking about.
Okay. So, in your experience, what does a fee for a home warranty typically cost, in your opinion?
So for a home warranty program, a home buyer, and this doesn't have to be a first time home buyer, any home owner or even a buyer, they can guesstimate or budget anywhere between $80 to $100 for that. And if you're buying for the first time, or you're transitioning, you're moving, you're relocating, you're downsizing, whatever the reason is for that purchase, look into purchasing a home warranty, even if it's not included in your sales package. Example, there's a client, right? And so this particular client was relocating from one property to another, right? But was wise enough to transfer their home warranty from their initial property to this secondary property that they were purchasing. Thank God they did, because guess what happened?
What's that?
A year later into their purchase, in June, which is the start of hurricane season here in South Florida. And so what does that mean? Heat rises up in June. Their AC unit went out.
I'm familiar with that. It's happened to me a couple times.
Right? And so imagine this is a purchase, a first year into their purchase, the AC goes out. They go and cost out what that would cost them, somewhere upwards of $9,000. But because they had this home warranty package already built in, well, transferred rather, they were only out of pocket $1,000.
Oh, so it's definitely worth it.
Oh, for sure.
I think I have to look into that.
You probably should.
The house that we're in now, we bought it, did the inspection. The inspector said, the AC is near the end of its life. You're probably going to get a year out of it, if that's best case scenario. So I was like, all right, we bought the house in February, did some work to it. Oh, no, sorry, that was the previous house. We bought the house in June. Same thing. Only difference is we didn't get a year. We got literally about 4 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was the second
July.
Story
That was out.
that went out where all of the bedrooms are.
See?
So it's definitely something. And again, an inspector is going to inspect your house. There's no way for him to guarantee or tell you, hey, this is going to last
Right.
7 years. It could be brand new, and it could be a manufacturing defect.
Yeah.
And now it goes out, and if you don't have a warranty, you could be out $9,000-$10,000. And my house has 2 ACs, one upstairs, one downstairs. So if they both go out at the same time, you're talking a potential $20,000 ticket. And not everybody has that money
Right.
readily available, especially if you just literally bought a house and down payment, closing costs, all of these things. Now you have to go and drop 10, 20,000 to fix a big ticket item. It's rough.
I think you should probably look into home warranty today.
Soon as we finish this episode, I'm gonna go check it out. So sticking with the you don't know what you don't know theme, a lot of people don't realize how big ticket items can affect their first time purchase or their purchase just in general, but we're speaking first time home buyers. What are some of the big ticket items that homeowners may encounter that they want to definitely, when they're doing their inspection, make sure they pay a keen eye on to make sure that those things are up to par. So after closing, they don't get hit a month later or 12 months later with a huge bill.
So something that comes to mind when you ask this question is, I had a client a few years ago who purchased a property, and though the roof wasn't at the end of its life, it still had maybe like 6 years left, right? So we were able to get it insured and covered, yet I was able to negotiate from the seller to give my buyer credit for the upgrading of the roof. Now, mind you, we got them insurance, so they were fine. They had 6 years left. At the closing, express to the buyers, get this done now. Don't wait 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it done now. But again, as we were talking earlier, don't be in a rush to furnish the property. Like, take your time, do one room at a time until you fully get to the place where you're happy with the property. So guess what this couple did?
Took that money for the roof and fixed up their house and made it nice and pretty. Hurricane season came.
Yeah.
Shot the roof.
And it wasn't even a hurricane. We had a storm. I don't know if you remember that storm where it rained really, really bad and then it flooded.
For the airport?
Yeah. So it wasn't even a named storm. It was just a local, it's raining in South Florida.
For 3 days, yeah.
Right. Unusual weather. And so, and it's so interesting just the timing, because they had the money, they had the 6 months before this storm took place. And had they gone ahead and did what they were supposed to do with that money, where they were just like, we have time, it's not that expensive, we'll get it done. They never got with the roofing company to even get the quotes. I was able to get them 20,000. So had they even gone and yeah, the seller wanted to sell, the seller had been in there for a long time, had the money to do that, but the buyers did not do what they were supposed to do with the money.
How often does that happen?
So for me, that doesn't happen quite often because now regulations have changed. So now the way that they're doing the underwriting, the monies can't even be left to the buyer. We're leaving it to the roofing company directly. But it is quite often that we as adults are irresponsible with doing what we're supposed to be doing with the money that we get.
Yeah, you know what, we'll push that to later. Let me go buy this new couch. Let me go buy this, or you know what, let me take that money from my roof, upgrade my kitchen.
Right.
And then your roof leak and it ruin your kitchen.
Right.
Doesn't make much sense.
Major.
But so we have so many costs. We have down payment, we have closing costs, we have the hidden costs that nobody talks about. We have the monthly costs, we have the emergency costs. What are some of the lifestyle costs that buyers should take into consideration as far as, you know, obviously when you go from being a renter to being an owner, your bills increase. Electric is higher, water is higher, or maybe you didn't have water before. So how does that affect the lifestyle choices that a first-time home buyer will make, should make, does make?
Yeah, it's a shift. It's a shift in lifestyle, period, because you're moving from renting to owning. And so the mindset has to shift. And then, two, just the preparation for what is it that I'm about to walk into. And so when it comes to looking at the square footage of my renting versus now owning, am I increasing in square footage? Because if I am increasing in square footage, it's a given that FP&L will probably look a lot higher than it did when I was in a smaller square footage of a home. Mm-hmm. And so again, take your time in furnishing that property. Let's see what this 90-day shift feels like from going from renting to now being a part of the equity club. Because now my mindset and my lifestyle is going to cause me to have to reallocate funds, right? But something that, to go back to something we spoke about earlier in regards to the buyer's consultation, what I love to do with my buyers is give them homework. Because one question that I ask them is, do you have a running monthly budget? Do you know all your bills that are going out? And do you know how much money is coming into your home? Are you using an app? Rocket Money is great because Rocket Money will tell you spent an extra X percentage this month. Mm-hmm. You know, because that's what it did to me last month. I said, what was going on? You know, but business taxes, property taxes, all of the things. So knowing your numbers is important because that also shifts the lifestyle, because now I know that maybe I can't do brunch 4 weekends out of the month because now I need to know what this 90-day shift feels like. So let me just do it 2 out of the 4 so that when I do get my new cost, it's still within my budget, right? And so I think that it's in life, period. Anytime you're shifting from one level to a next, it requires an upgrade in your thinking. It requires an upgrade in the way that you maneuver. It requires an upgrade in you learning what's going to be required of me in this new space. So yeah, you're part of the equity club and we building equity, but now I have to be a lot more intentional about how I spend and where I spend.
Do you find that a lot of people go from renting to owning, or owning smaller to owning bigger, and become house rich and pocket poor?
And that's the part of it that makes me sad as a realtor, because I've had that experience with clients. And because we see this every day in our world, we give insight and advice, but from the standpoint of someone who is now able to shift into a bigger home and the excitement is there, or they're shifting from renting to now owning, the excitement is there. They're not looking at what we can see down the line, right?
Right.
And so when I ask that question in regards to, do you have a running budget? I've gotten people that were offended by my questioning. And that's for me to help you. It's not to get all up in your business.
Right.
Because you can be approved for $600,000, but does the budget say
correct
that you can carry the mortgage at that level? You're overspending in other areas that you probably need to cut back on first before you have the capacity to really carry that on. And so there are clients that have gone into homes that I knew they should not have gone into because the mortgage was going to cause them to be house broke. But again, we see with our eyes, right? And I want it. I'm in love with it. This is where I'm going, and I'm approved, and I'm gonna go for it. And then, you follow up. Our our office, we did a CMA challenge January, and just going through clients that have closed to see. And I had one client in particular who I told her that wasn't it, because she was married with her boyfriend and he wasn't on the mortgage. And so she, at the time, they could carry it together, but by herself she couldn't.
Right.
Right. And so to see her on the list pendants list headed towards foreclosure, I was like, hold up, wait a minute, we need to have a conversation. And so that's what I did. I called her, and she and I had a conversation to see what was going on and how I could help her to not go into foreclosure. And so, having that conversation and consultation help her to go into a modification of her loan and all of the things. And I actually just followed up with her maybe about 2 weeks ago, and she's in a much better space. She got a promotion at work, income has increased. And, she says, she's like, I always tell people my realtor always follows up. But that was at the right time. I just wanted to win the competition, and that's how I knew she was in the list pendants status. And so, being house rich, how do you word it?
House rich and pocket poor.
Yeah, it's not something that a real estate agent who truly has a passion for seeing their clients win desires. So it's really about knowing your numbers, having a financial plan for your family. Can we afford this mortgage at that level at this interest rate?
Right. So do you work with the lender and the client to kind of say, okay, you're approved for 600,000, but I really think based on your lifestyle, you probably want to stay around 480, 500.
Right.
Is that a conversation you have with the lender, with the buyer, or is it something that is just kind of?
It's a conversation that happens with both individuals. I recently, in last month, actually lost a deal. Deal died, and I'm okay with it. I was emotional about it, only because I met this young lady at an open house. She's a first-time home buyer, and her story resonated with mine so much. So I was really cheering for her, excited for her journey to walk into her home ownership. She got approved. We went out shopping, and every time she saw a property that she loved, I sent it over to the lender so the lender could present what we call a fee sheet. Mm-hmm. So the buyer can actually see the numbers and make sure they're comfortable with it. So we go into contract on this really beautiful upgraded property. We got the fee sheet. All the numbers were comfortable. When I took the time to go back and look at the numbers based on the taxes that I was projecting for the income a year, it's like something was a little off. I then went and had a conversation with the lender to see if she had presented to the buyer what the adjustment for the year after on the taxes. Now, if you buy early in the year, wonderful, because now you get opportunity to ride out on that previous seller taxes for the remainder of the year. And this particular owner had been in the house for over 20 some odd years. So the taxes were beautiful. But what my client wasn't anticipating was the reassessment of what her mortgage was going to be the next year. Mm-hmm. So when we went and had that conversation and she saw that big shift, when I say big, it was big. Imagine the taxes were $758 and we were going to like $7,400 with the shift. Major difference in where her mortgage was going to be in 2027. And so when we stopped and had that conversation, she was, no, I can't afford this. And we had to unfortunately kill the deal. But for me, I was okay with it. Although I had done all that work, I was okay with it because I would not have wanted that phone call next year.
Putting her in a bad situation, foreclosure, she
right.
can't afford
and
it.
She's drowning because she wasn't anticipating that now my taxes are going to shift because it's based on my 2026 purchase amount.
So, true story, that's happened to me. A little bit different situation. It was an investment property, but it was a house that we flipped. And the lady owned it, same thing, 20, 30 years. Her taxes were, I don't know, $1,200, $1,500, something like that. And we bought it, had some delays, and we ended up selling it right after the tax bill came out.
Oh, so like that September,
and it
October.
went from homesteaded property to a non-homesteaded property. Taxes ended up going to like $9,000. And it was a property that we actually lost money on. And that was part of the loss that we took, going from a little tax amount to a huge tax amount. So I always said going forward, the next house that I flip or any house that I flip going forward, I'm going to make sure that I buy it at the right time of the year,
Right.
especially if you're trying to get in and out. If you buy it before the tax bill comes out, you get away with it, or after the tax bill comes out, you get away with it. But in that little few month period, like, it can hit you and hit you
Big
hard.
time. And I think that that's something that a lot of homeowners need more education around with this South Florida market, the way that the taxes reassess. Even for new construction, when new construction was affordable, right? You're paying your first year based on the dirt.
That's it.
That's it. But when that subdivision of your home is done and they reassess the market value, that market value is about to jump. Your mortgage is about to jump. And then that's when buyers get the notice from the mortgage company that you have an escrow shortage. How do I have an escrow shortage and I pay my mortgage every month? They're anticipating the payments for the incoming year.
So along that line, you bring me to another good point from a client. Homestead. If it's your primary residence, how important is it to file your homestead on time?
Oh,
And
my
what
gosh.
are the downfalls if you don't?
Foreclosure. And this is a true story. There's a woman now that one of my real good realtor buddies was able to help her. She never, 2017, we're in 2026, never filed her homestead exemption. And so she's been paying this inflated tax amount, living in a property that's her primary home, and never received the discounts that she could have because she never knew she needed to file homestead. And from 2017 into 2026, she's been drowning in a monthly payment amount because she never filed her exemption. And literally it's in a foreclosure. Well, was. I think she's now working out with the servicer. And let's say that, answer the call, talk to your service providers, right? There are options and programs out there for you. But she had never done that and never even knew that she needed to do that because guess why?
Her realtor didn't tell her. She didn't have a buyer consultation.
Not just that, her mailing address was not updated with the county. And so she was never getting the notices that the county was sending in regards to file your homestead. She had heard of it, but she said she never knew what it was. You don't know what you don't know.
How easy is it to file your homestead?
Oh, simple. Update your driver's license and go online, and
That's it.
it's simple. You're literally just giving the county, I own this home and this is my verification.
Do you remind your clients after closing?
Oh yeah, and it gives you a conversation piece because they're moving, they're thinking about what they need to do in the home, if they have kids, all of the things that comes with just regular inundated movements of life, they forget. Even if you have the conversation, they forget.
And you know when they remember?
When they get
The
the
next
notice.
year and they get
yeah,
that
when they
big
get that
tax
bill.
bill.
Yeah.
So why did my mortgage go up? Oh, you know what? I didn't file my homestead.
Yes.
So wrapping this whole conversation up about first time home buyers, what would be your suggestion to home buyers? Excuse me. Suggestion, piece of advice, number one thing that you could tell them if you had to tell a first time home buyer that's watching this episode, they don't know where to start, what to do. The one thing that they need to not forget from this episode.
Just one thing?
Okay,
Okay, so what?
Give me what you
no,
think.
I'll give you the one thing because the one thing can really just circle all the things. The one thing is have a buyer's consultation with your realtor of choice. And why I say have a buyer's consultation with your realtor of choice is you don't know what you don't know. And so being able to sit with the realtor to anticipate the out-of-pocket costs, to anticipate what it looks like to be a part of the equity club, to anticipate the shift in property taxes, to anticipate my responsibilities as a homeowner, it's imperative for that buyer to have a successful buyer's consultation so they can really high level see what their whole journey is going to entail and really become knowledgeable and comfortable so they can shift from I don't know what I don't know to oh, this is what it is. This is what she was talking about. This is what she meant when she said, although you qualify at the $700,000 level based on your monthly budget, you guys shouldn't purchase at that amount because then you're going to be pocket poor because you're too house rich. So I think if there's one suggestion, one piece of advice that I could give a buyer, an investor, a downsizer, a relocator, whomever you are, have a consultation. And with me, with my consultation, I love to bring in my vendors. I love to bring in the lender. That's not my lane, right? And so I love to defer to the lender when it comes to a lender question on the title. That's not my lane. So I love to defer to the title and just allow the experts to be who they are, so that buyer walks away and is really wowed. And sometimes I like that they're overwhelmed by the information, because not to worry, we're going to send you literature that's going to literally give you step by step. But now they become educated in a sense where they're not just signing a contract that has a number. I'm signing, I'm educated, I'm well aware of what the next piece of this journey is going to require. And as I said earlier, when you're shifting to another level, your mind has to also shift.
Correct.
And how does your mind shift? I'm educated. How does my mind become educated? I'm intaking and receiving information from an expert, but I'm also receiving literature that I can then go back and read and ensure that I understand. And then I can also just upload her literature into AI and make sure that what he or she has just said to me is it, and it's not promoting their business, and it's really about the care of that buyer.
How can people get in touch with you?
I can be found. But I love first time home buyers. I think that making the dream of home ownership into reality is something that brings me an immense amount of joy. And so Lorraine Simon can be found on all social media platforms. My Lorraine is Lorraine en français. And so it's spelled Laurane, Simon, Simon. And then on social media, particularly Instagram, it's Hills on the Move underground underscore rather. Look at me, underground. I'm here, ain't no underground. So it's Hills on the Move underscore realtor on Instagram. And so I love this space. I encourage you, if you're pre-approved and this has been a dream or desire for you, now is the time. This is your season. Walk in it, but walk in it being knowledgeable. Walk in it being comfortable, ensuring that you have a budget, you know your numbers, and you can live comfortably at the level of what you're purchasing. Because one thing I can say that also has brought joy to my heart is having a client that I've worked with being able to refinance during the pandemic and purchase an investment property. And this same client started off as a renter who didn't know that she could buy. And because of a consultation, she purchased her primary. And then because of the follow-up and the connection that we created with one another, she also now owns an investment property. So congratulations to you in advance, the first time home buyer that's watching this video. We look forward to serving you, and I hope that you walk into home ownership and the Equity Club with the full knowledge based on what you've received from Free and Clear podcast.
I don't know how I top that, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay tuned every week on Wednesdays for a new episode of the Free and Clear podcast, brought to you by Elevate Title. I'm the co-owner, or actually I'm the owner and founder of Elevate Title, as well as the Free and Clear podcast. If you have anybody that you know that would be a great fit for the show, please have them DM us. Also, if you're watching First Time Homebuyer, please reach out to Lorraine. I promise you, she's one of the top agents that I know and an even better person. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.
Woo!